Minnesota Democratic Congressman Dean Phillips has been on the campaign trail for nearly 2 months, mainly talking to voters in New Hampshire. And in the past days, he stepped up his direct attacks on the president. Earlier this week, Phillips said the impeachment probe and Hunter Biden's legal entanglements could perhaps make the president unelectable. He also called President Biden a, quote, threat for his current weak standing in the polls against Donald Trump. Joining me on set right now is...
Hey there, guys. Welcome to the channel. Guys, I know that you have heard me say this before, right? But Democrats, more and more Democrats every single day are fleeing Joe Biden just like a bunch of rats trying to get off a sinking ship. That's, in a lot of cases, that's exactly what they are. And in every case, that is exactly what their party has become. And some of them, they're even trying to sound the alarm. You know, more and more Democrats are coming to the realization that unless something insane happens, something completely unforeseen, something that the left would probably call miraculous if they actually believed in miracles. Unless one of those things happens in the next 11 months, Donald Trump is going to run the table on Joe Biden. Probably going to become the first Republican presidential candidate in a very, very long time to actually win the popular vote. And there are Democrats trying to stop this. You know, not a lot of people know because the media doesn't tell you. The Democrat Party sure doesn't tell you, but Joe Biden actually does have some primary challengers. And I'm not talking about the people who have kicked off onto the third party, but actual Democrat primary. Jill Stein, the habitual presidential candidate, and Dean Phillips, who, as far as I can tell, seems like a pretty reasonable congressman, as far as, you know, leftists can be reasonable. Now, of course, the Democrat Party in many, many states, they're already attempting to fix this thing for Joe Biden, but you know, what they're doing, they're keeping those two people off of the primary ballot, completely shutting them out, which really is nothing new. I mean, the last two presidential elections were rigged by the Democratic Party, and both times against Bernie Sanders. The left apparently loves socialists, but you're not actually supposed to say it. You can't say you're a socialist and then get them to support you. You have to be a fake undercover socialist. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Dean Phillips is not Bernie Sanders. That much is clear. As far as I can tell, the guy is actually pretty reasonable, pretty sensible, and at least he's lucid. So, I mean, if you're a Democrat, that's got to look pretty dang attractive. But anyway, Phillips has a pretty important message for Joe Biden, one that I think Joe would be wise to listen to. I'm going to show it to you right now. But guys, first, if you haven't already, please help our channel continue to grow. It's 2024 now, and it's going to be more and more difficult to get conservative voices heard. So we got to do this together, guys, and we can do it together by liking, commenting, subscribing, and most importantly, sharing the videos. Take a look at this message for Joe.
And months to come. Congressman Dean Phillips, he's running for president. He's challenging President Biden as a Democrat. Now, let's be clear, not as a third-party candidate. So if he loses the primary against Biden, he's not the spoiler candidate who hurts Democrats. He's trying to beat Biden in the Democratic primary. But that hasn't stopped many establishment Democrats from trying to marginalize his campaign. And with President Biden truly struggling in recent polls to beat Donald Trump, I've said this before, I am stunned more Democrats aren't at least focusing on his candidacy. Recent battleground state polls show Biden losing to Trump by 4, 5, even 10 points in states Biden won in 2020. And I keep asking, why aren't Democrats freaking out more? Some of those same polls show a generic Democrat beating Trump easily. Tonight, we'll cover a range of issues from how he could actually win to Israel, the border, ask some of your questions as well. Welcome to Democratic Congressman Dean Phillips from Minnesota, candidate for president. Thanks so much for coming on the show.
Great
Appreciate
to be with you, Dan.
All right, so let's start with the big picture question. Why are more people not taking your candidacy serious? I mean, I talk to people who are well informed about politics, and I say, oh, I had Dean Phillips on my show the other day, and they say, who's Dean Phillips?
Sure. Well, two reasons. The country doesn't know me yet, which is going to take some time. But the bigger issue is I'm a threat to a system that many people are trying to protect. And that's a problem. It's a duopoly. It's a political industrial complex that is always focused on a core nation, not really accustomed to a competition, particularly when you have an incumbent president. But this is an unusual time, Dan, as you just pointed out. Donald Trump is going to beat Joe Biden. I'm just going to say it again. Donald Trump is going to beat Joe Biden. Most people know that. But the conversations are all they're having them privately. They're not doing them publicly. That's the difference. It's going to take a little bit of time.
And you know what the Democrats say, because I've often said to people who come on the show who are Democrats, I say, look at the polls. They tell me why the polls don't matter. They tell me a year out, polls often change. They tell me that when people realize that it's ultimately Donald Trump versus anybody, they're going to vote against Donald Trump. And their position is that they think that people like you are being way too alarmist about the polls today.
Alarmist? I think people who are not being alarmist about Donald Trump are delusional. That's the whole reason I'm here today. That's why I'm running for president. It's not what I anticipated. I tried for a year to encourage the president to pass the torch, spent the better part of 6 months encouraging candidates who are better known than I am right now to enter the stage. This is what you do in democracy. You practice by actually having competitions. So it's going to take some time for that delusion to pass, but I've not seen one shred of evidence, not one shred, that Joe Biden is positioned to beat Donald Trump. Not one. Every poll, every single poll relative to his approval rating, intuition back home, conversations, literally, this sounds ridiculous. I ask every person I encounter on my campaign, are you ready for change? I found 3 people. We keep count. 3 people have said, no, I'm happy with either Joe Biden or Donald Trump. That's why 75% of the country right now is saying they don't want this. And the political industrial complex is trying to protect the status quo and not encourage a competition for Democrats. It's dangerous. It's really dangerous.
So how does it work, right? You can't even get on the ballot in a lot of places, right? Yeah. So as a practical matter, let's assume that your candidacy starts getting some traction, right?
Sure.
Let's assume you do well in New Hampshire, surprisingly so, right? And people say, well, this guy Phillips, who is he? Oh, did pretty well in New Hampshire. But then what? I mean, you're not even on the ballot in a lot of these states.
I'm going to be on 40 ballots, at least. Is it easy? No, because the system, Dan, is designed to prevent competition. Now, publicly, the Democratic Party would like everybody to believe that we believe in debate, we believe in voter participation, and we believe in thoughtful candidate competition. But the truth is, behind the scenes, every single one of those categories is suppressed.
Yeah, so you guys see that. Phillips, he nails it, man. He is a threat to a system that a lot of people are trying to protect. No kidding. You don't say. I mean, who does that remind you of? Honestly, I mean, no wonder they're removing and prohibiting Phillips from the ballot, because that's what the defenders of democracy do. I mean, this is what we do with anyone who is deemed a threat now. And another thing that he nailed, Donald Trump is going to beat Joe Biden. And it almost sounds like Phillips doesn't really want any part of running for president. He doesn't sound like he wants to be president. Apparently, he tried to force others into running. But he does firmly believe that Joe Biden doesn't stand a chance, and he doesn't want to see a Donald Trump presidency. He really does fear Joe Biden, and that's a sad thing for him. You know, he said it himself. You know, the system, especially the Democrat system, is designed to prevent real competition. And this is from an insider. This is from an actual Democrat. But guys, that's all I've got. I thought you'd appreciate seeing that. I really do want to hear what you have to say about this, so let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, guys, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. We'll see you in the next one.